Today, will the social media moguls lose their liability protections? And more on non verified sources of news on the Biden or the Hunter Biden emails. A bit more to come right up. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn on your Tuesday. It is. Hope everybody's doing well out there. And thank you so much for tuning in on your Tuesday. And I want to give a warm shout out once again to the loyal patrons, Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, Let the Truth Be Told, Cold War Jesus, and AZ Infidel. Thank you guys so much for all that you do, and shout out to the loyal subscribers and the followers on Periscope. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday, and I am circling back with you as promised from an earlier tag. So hope you guys are doing well. So I'm not going to get into too many lines on this flash stream, just a few, because as I've said before, this is we're raining liners, and it's such a huge confluence of things that are happening that we'll see. I think you have. I think that it becomes a point of frustration or discontent with so many things, so many stories breaking until the next one breaks, or so much expose and then nothing, and then nothingness after huge exposés or raining exposés. So shout out once again to everyone. I'm going to give you guys just a couple of minutes to get in, and we should probably call this one real in 60 is what we're going to call this one today. So hope you guys are doing well on your Tuesday, and I thank you guys as always for taking care of the Channelytics. I really appreciate that. And if you are driving by, you're not sure if you're coming in, I really appreciate you for considering coming in to Black Spring with Autumn on your Tuesday. You do have choices. There are many choices out there on this social media platform, or in the social media realms. So I'll just give you an idea, a little bit of the scope of what we're going to deal with today. And we're actually going to start with we'll start with our lead-in stories. We'll have a bit, of course, on the social media being called to the carpet, if you will, and a bit on the third debate being front-loaded with bias. I'm not sure if it wasn't front-loaded with bias on the previous one, but we'll get into that in just a little bit, and then we'll go a little bit. We'll hear a little bit from the White House staff personnel, or Mark Meadows, not personnel. That's not his position name, but it's definitely Mark Meadows. I don't want to get his title. I don't want to butcher up the title too much here, but he's going to talk a little bit about that in terms of what's going on. And also just a little bit of a stinger, a bit of a letdown, I think, from the DOJ yesterday. So we'll get into that. And first, we're going to take our first story. We're going to we'll start with our vetted source, The New American. And we'll go there. And shout out to everybody on your Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well. So I just want to give you a bit from our friends over at the JBS. All right, so if you're new to the show or the segments, I encourage you to take a look at the community tab. But as we're going into this segment of our show, is brought to you by our good friends at the John Birch Society. Less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. The JBS is a constitutional and educational organization that's been around for over 60 years, dedicated to upholding and defending the Constitution and working to preserve our freedoms and liberties in this country. The JBS does not endorse any political party or candidates. Rather, it focuses on the education, training, and development of the American voters. So, with that said, we're going to go right in. I hope you guys are doing well. So, once again, I'm actually going to share the screen on this one, and then you're going to have some imagery and some bites that'll come from our other sources. So, once again, I hope you guys are doing quite well out there. So, if you guys are just coming in or thinking of coming in, I really appreciate it. So, we're going to take our first story from the TNA, and it's entitled "The Trump Campaign Blasts Debate Commission Over Last Minute Changes." Now, this was written by Bob Adelman. This was actually released on yesterday. So, because it's a debate week, I think the shelf life is still pretty good on this one. So, once again, shout out to you, to everybody. Thanks so much for considering coming in. So we're going to have a look at this, and then we're going to keep going. So the commission on the last minute changes, I think it probably deserves a bit. I just hope that if we can just get through this entire cycle, I think will be best. So let's start here. So according to this from the TNA, it says the Trump campaign's response to last minute rule and topic changes made by the Commission on the Presidential Debates, that's a CPD, show that Thursday night's presidential debate will be all out war. In a call with reporters on Monday morning before the CPD announced the muted mic rule, Trump 2020 senior advisor Jason Miller called out the commission for its pro-Biden bias. Quote, "I want to make it very clear how they're putting their foot on the scale with regard to this debate. This was supposed to be the foreign policy debate. The final debate is always the foreign policy debate," end quote. He added, the debate commission is now trying to change the rules and make this about a whole host of different issues. And we believe this is the request of the Biden campaign that does not want to talk about Joe Biden's support for endless wars, his support for sending those pallets of cash to Iran, the fact that Joe Biden appears to be compromised by the Chinese Communist Party as we look at this money coming in to Hunter. It was clear the Biden camp does not want to talk foreign policy. It is clear the debate commission is bending over backwards to try to help out the Biden campaign. He followed that with a tweet, quote, "Good morning to everyone except Presidential Debate Commission members who changed focus of the final debate away from foreign policy so Joe Biden wouldn't have to answer to be compromised by the CCP supporting endless wars and sending pallets of cash to Iran," end quote. Once it was learned that the candidates' mics would be muted during the opening 2-minute segment on each topic, Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien responded, quote, "President Trump is committed to debating Joe Biden regardless of last-minute rule changes from the biased commission in their latest attempt to provide advantage to their favored candidate," end quote. He expanded, this was supposed to be the foreign policy debate, so the president still looks forward to forcing Biden to answer the number one relevant question of whether he's been compromised by the CPC. Why Biden would allow his son, Hunter, to sell access to him while he was vice president, and why were there Chinese payment arrangements for Joe himself worked out by Hunter and his sketchy partners. If the media won't ask Joe Biden these questions, the president will, and there will be no escape for Biden. Stepien followed up his attack on the commission in a letter he sent it late Monday. "We write with great concern over the announced topics for what was always billed as the, quote, foreign policy debate," end quote, in the series of events agreed to many months ago. as is the long-standing custom, and and had been promised by the commission. We had expected that foreign policy would be the central focus of the October 22nd debate. New information recently revealed indicates that Biden himself was mentioned as a financial beneficiary of a deal arranged by his son Hunter and a communist Chinese related energy company. If a major party candidate for president of the United States is compromised by the CPC or the CCP, this is something Americans deserve to hear about. It is completely irresponsible for the commission to alter the focus of this final debate just days before the event, solely to insulate Biden from his own history. He said the last minute changes in rules and topics have turned the debates into a quote fiasco, end quote. The commission's pro-Biden antics have turned the entire debate season into a fiasco, and it's little wonder why the public has lost faith in its objectivity. The moderator of the third debate, Kristen Welker, now has decided to pursue topics almost wholly unrelated to the purpose of the event, which was to be focused on foreign policy. Welker has earned a reputation for her scathing and vicious style of questioning, and she has made no effort to hide her left-wing proclivities. As New York Post noted, quote, Welker comes from an established Democratic family who have poured cash into party coffers and to Trump's opponents for years, end quote. A senior White House official concurs, quote, anyone who's ever dealt with Welker knows she's an activist, not a reporter, end quote. So it's all out war, and the president will take every remaining advantage to make sure the millions of viewers watching Thursday night's debate know all about Biden's corruption, his close financial ties to the communist running China, and his phony denials. There will be no escape for Biden in spite of the last minute changes in rules and topics by the commission. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. That was a bit thick and a bit wordy. No word salads for you. Sorry about that. But that's quite a bit to chew on. And I will say the first debate was a bit incomprehensible in many ways, but I still think that Trump had he had more policy and more economics and more facts to rely on than, of course, Biden. I mean, by anything that Biden didn't want to discuss at length or anything he didn't want to defend, literally Chris Wallace interjected or he deflected. He deflected for him. For anything he didn't want to defend, he deflected. And that was on Chris Wallace's end there. Shout out to you guys. Hi, Anthony Scioli. Thank you so much. I just want to share your quote. You're here. You said, I can't savvy all of this or I'll get banned. I can't say all of this or I'll get banned, but there are rumors that Hunter tortured some people. I'm telling you, Anthony Scioli, just to speak to that, the culture of this country has already changed. It's very sad. It's almost overwhelming that we are watching what was previously ahistorical to the United States of America. It is now historical. I think that you could very well, I've said people, you start journaling because you're going to have his story and then you're going to have his story. The technocrats are controlling everything. That's where we are. So I think, and it's suppressing not just the mainstream, not just, it's suppressing conservatives. I have no idea where it ends. So if we're suppressing balance it's almost like we've eliminated, it's becoming what can I call it? An autocracy, that there's no other side. There's just one. You can only go with one thing. And it's almost like the way the media is. It's almost like, I mean, do we have state sponsored media now? I'm just surprised. I mean, it's unprecedented. I mean, there's a lot that of course, I've heard lots of things, but I don't want to speak to things. I'm not going to say I'm so much concerned with the non-verified. I would be concerned about verification, but some of the people that are coming out, they just, they just let things rip, and I have no idea. Yeah, of course, I've heard heard some of it from that source, and even Steve Bannon has been. I think because Bannon contributed to the story, I think that's why, and Giuliani, between those two, they are lending absolutely no credibility. I have no idea where that's going to wind up, but I'm here to lend what I can, to lend my sources and my own, um, lend my own sources here. But I don't see, I really don't know what's going to happen with this. I don't see an end to it right now. I don't, and I didn't in that I didn't really finish my opening statement there, because it's like when it rains, it pours. You've got emails, you've got scandals, but what does it all mean? You know, you, I mean, whether you have conservative values or whatever your values are, is exposing people enough. It's almost like the conservatives or the Republicans, or if it's just a part of the game, if it's just a part of the overall game, that, oh, we don't actually carry out any justice, or they operate without impunity, so we just expose them. It's fruitless, and it's frustrating to keep releasing this information to the public. I mean, and it shows it shows the two-tier justice system. It shows it. I mean, everybody got a bit of a blow yesterday when the DOJ came out. They came out with charges against Russian cyber attacks, and yet nothing on the domestic field. Nothing. So we'll see what that looks like, and I'm going to keep going here. And it's a great segue. We're going to go into just a little bit of the social media, the suppression, and it's more than a downer, because this has been the only way that many people have gotten any form of balance, or they've gotten any news. Shout out to you, old head dudes. You are not being ignored. I really appreciate you guys so much for being in here. Thanks so much for taking care with the channel. So what I'm going to do is, right now, I'm going to move us over to the next segment, and we're going to talk a little bit about, I think, the Senate calling the tech giants to the carpet. And see, the thing is, they're calling them back to the carpet. So where's that going to go? What's that going to produce? This is not the first time that the tech giants have been on the carpet. And it's basically, they write them a rain check and say, hey, yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Have my people call your people. So with that, I'm going to take us to the next segment. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope the weather is favorable in your neck of the woods. All right, so the next segment here, we're going to focus a little bit more on the, this is about the only thing I'm going to lend. We're going to lead in with the zero hedge, and it's going to be the subject. It's going to be on the entire, the antitrust kind of a realm there. So we're going to go for that one next on the next segment. And that will mention the Biden emails, and there will be a soundbite for you on that. So once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So yes, I really appreciate you guys for all that you do. All right, so I'm going to be sharing this screen with you. And here again, this is a lead in we're going to lead in with this one. This is quote from Zero Hedge. This is not a Russian hoax, end quote. Non-public information debunks letter from 50 former Intel officials. See, I'm telling you, they're going through quite a bit here. There's a lot of efforts here And we're going to have a look at it, a closer look here. And then we'll have some insight from the other pundits here. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to those who are driving by with the window down. If you're not sure if you're coming in, I appreciate it. And then we'll look at the DOJ as well. All right. So what you see before you right now is our lead in with the Zero Hedge. And so here, this is written by Tyler Durden. This is hours before Politico reported the existence of a letter signed by 50 former senior intelligence officials who say that Hunter Biden's laptop scandal has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation, providing, quote, no evidence, end quote, while they remain, quote, deeply suspicious that the Russian government played a significant role in this case, end quote. Tucker Carlson obliterated their literal conspiracy theory. All right, so according to Fox News, the host, he's seen non-public information that proves it was Hunter's laptop, adding that no one but Hunter could have known about or replicated this information. Okay, so I'm going to take you to that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you, Gun Show 1 and Philip J. Turner, thanks so much. So I'm going to plug you guys right into our soundbite here. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Biden's laptop, period. There are materials on the hard drive of that computer that no one but Hunter Biden could have known about or have replicated. This is not a Russian hoax. Again, we're saying this definitively. We're not speculating. The laptop in question is real. It belonged to Hunter Biden. So there's no excuse for not asking about it, none. But they didn't ask about it. It was a cover-up in real time. No matter what happens in the election next month, the American media will never be the same after this. It cannot continue this way. It is.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So there you had your lead in from Zero Hedge, but then you also got your actual your pundit from, or your analyst from Fox News, in which actually Fox News is you guys know, if you've been on this show long enough, is Fox News is a network of the CFR and their CFR members. So they have transformed themselves in many ways over the years. They have. And I think Tucker and maybe a couple of other of their hosts, maybe some of the last of a breed that's no longer there. So I have a few more images to share with you. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to Unique View. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to share that screen again. And then we have actually have some documents from Zero Hedge on that. I haven't seen the documents anywhere else. So what you see before you, meanwhile, the Delaware computer repair shop owner who believes Hunter dropped off 3 MacBook Pros for data recovery has a signed work order bearing Hunter's signature when compared to the signature on a document in his paternity suit. While one looks more formal than the other, they are a match. So hopefully you guys can see that on the screen there. So, I mean, it's pretty, you can't zoom in by any stretch. I probably can zoom in here. Oh, there you go. Okay, so here you go. You have, it looks like this is the MacBook repair quote for 2019. And that looks, here's some other of his documents here. So yeah, so that's their proof there. And that's what you have to go with that. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to Joseph Francis Burton. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. So those are those docs there. And I appreciate you guys so much for coming in. So we'll finish that one up here. All right. Okay, so with that, this goes back to the 50 former senior intelligence officials and their latest Russia fixation. One has to wonder, do they think Putin was able to compromise Biden's former business associate, Bevan Cooney, who gave the investigative journalist Peter Schweizer his Gmail password, revealing that Hunter and his partners were engaged in an influence peddling operation for rich Chinese who wanted access to the Obama administration. Did Putin further hack Joe Biden in 2011 to make him take a meeting with the Chinese delegation with ties to the CCP arranged by Hunter's group? 2 years, they secured a massive investment of Chinese money. The implications boggle the mind. Here's the clarifying sentences from the 50 former senior intelligence intelligence officials that expose the utter farce of it all. While the letter's signatories presented no new evidence, they said their national security experience had made them, quote, deeply suspicious that the Russian government played a significant role in this case, and cited several elements of the story that suggested that the Kremlin's hand at work. Quote, if we are right, end quote, they added, this is Russia trying to influence how Americans vote in this election. And we believe strongly that Americans need to be aware of this, end quote. So who's actually doing that here? Is that not a little bit primed with projection? When you get down to it, the suppression is coming from the social media moguls. Every now and then they tell you exactly what they're doing or what's going on. They tell you exactly. But Russia seems to be their all occasion, just kind of like Trump. Trump and Russia are one and the same. It's their all occasion, demon, all occasion devil. And it's always projection as to it's, straight out of the playbook, right? It would appear these former intel officials are not aware of the current intel official views confirmed by the DNI. Now, that's the Department of National Intelligence. Ratcliffe yesterday that, quote, Hunter Biden's laptop is not part of some Russian disinformation campaign. So, yes, he did. He said that Fox Business, I believe he was on Maria Bartiromo's show, and he said that. But it's just staggering the way this stuff comes out, and the expose is piling on. For me, it's not enough to just expose someone, and that's all we're getting is expose. So it looks like even here, Trump even tweeted, apparently, we should start an immediate investigation into Senator Schumer and his ties to Russia and Putin, a total hypocrite. So you can see he's pictured here. I don't know if it's a donut he's mowing on, but it looks like it's coffee and donuts that's pretty cozy, right? That's March 3rd, 2017. But you see, it's just nothing sticks to these people. Nothing. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So that's going to round that particular one out. So yeah, but the AJ stuff, I'm not going into any of that for my own, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, it's kind of nice to know what's in the forecast, but you have to decide what you want to do with it and how much you have to, your own discernment. Your discernment is advised. Shout out to you guys. Be your own best fact checker. So we're going to go to our next segment here. This is going to a little bit more from the DOJ. Shout out to you. Joseph Francis Burton says nothing will stick to them. Shout out to Crazy Chick Sheena. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it. It's always nice to see you. It's nice to see you guys, all of you. So we're going to go to our next segment here. And we're going to have a look at what the DOJ has to say. Because it looks like the DOJ files a sweeping antitrust lawsuit against Google. We'll see where that goes. Like I've said, this is not the first time these guys have been called to the carpet. And I don't know. I watch some of these things so that you guys don't, whether you watch them or not, so you don't have to. But what you see before you right now is the DOJ finally files sweeping antitrust lawsuit against Google. Okay, so this is another lead in from Tyler Durden. This is AG William Barr released a statement about the Google lawsuit saying that, quote, millions of Americans rely on the internet and online platforms. And that, quote, competition in this industry is vitally important. So this is from the Justice Department. This was from yesterday. Quote, today, millions of Americans rely on the internet and online platforms. Competition in this industry is vitally important, which is why today's challenge against Google for violating antitrust laws is a monumental case, both for the DOJ and for the American people, end quote, A.G. Barr. All right, so A.G. Barr is starting to get a little bit, I think he's getting to be a bit of a point of irritation for many people. And in fact, I've even heard Lou Dobbs say that he thinks that A.G. Barr is playing the Trump administration, and that, of course, that's the American people as well at large. So here's one more statement from the DOJ, from William Barr. Quote, since my confirmation, I have prioritized the department's review of online market leading platforms to ensure that our technology industries remain competitive. This lawsuit strikes at the heart of Google's grip over the internet for millions of American consumers, advertisers, small businesses, and entrepreneurs beholden to an unlawful monopolist, end quote. Now that comes from William P. Barr, the Attorney General. So I'm not actually covering that to the actual hearings. I'm just not sure what they're doing. It's not swift action. It's beginning to be more like theater, kangaroo justice, kangaroo court, kangaroo theater. What is it? It's draining. And we'll talk a little bit about the debates in just a second here, because this is all kind of leading up to, with this kind of a climate, if they've changed the rules on the actual debate, that we're not going to talk about foreign policy, which is pretty standard, I believe, standard in their format and standard in the content. We're just going to talk about whatever. This is rigged. I just don't know. Why do they agree to this stuff? It's just like they have just so. I have no idea where this is going. It's not good. It's totally delegitimizing things, and the integrity of everything is just kind of out the window. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Okay, so we'll get in and out with this one really quickly. Hope you guys are doing well. So what you see before you is more from Zero Hedge. It says Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen led a brief phone briefing with reporters on Tuesday, where he essentially confirmed all of the reporting from this morning's WSJ scoop. Rosen added that the lawsuit accused Google of violating Section 2 of the Sherman Act, the same statute that was used during the Bill Cosby. Whoa. During Bill Clinton's presidency to carry out a host of antitrust litigation, including the landmark case against Microsoft. Quote, for years, there have been concerns about business practices leading to unprecedented concentration in our economy, end quote, Rosen began, adding that the antitrust division has been looking at Google and its antitrust practices for more than a year now. Rosen called Google a, quote, gatekeeper of the internet and, quote, one of the wealthiest companies on the planet, end quote, saying it has maintained its monopoly standing via its anti-competitive practices, end quote, that are necessary to, quote, enable competition, end quote. If the DOJ doesn't act, Rosen said, Americans could risk missing out on the next wave of companies. If that happens, Americans may never get to see, quote, the next Google. Interesting. End quote. Quote, we plan to continue our review of market-leading internet tech platforms, end quote, he said. Rosen added that A.G. Barr made the case, quote, a priority within the department. Rosen thanked the DOJ antitrust division and the DOJ's partners in each state capital for all their hard work on the case. All right, so there you go. You've got your issue of what's happening there. So we'll find out. I'm not sure how televised it is, but those are really tough to sit through. So also, we'll continue here. Stocks have climbed since the open after the news about Google lawsuit hammered the U.S. futures. As we wait for the DOJ briefing on the lawsuit, it's worth noting that Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google owner Alphabet, will testify on Capitol Hill. That's going to be this week, As for why Democratic states didn't sign on to the antitrust suit, CNBC's Lon Mew reported, citing details in the WSJ and NYT reports, that there was some resistance from staff attorneys, and ultimately Democratic states declined to sign on, along with many Republican states, all of which are now free to bring their own charges. A guest who appeared on CNBC following Mew's report pointed out that one of the biggest differences between Google and Microsoft is that Google's products are mostly free for end users and are also tremendously well liked. So, according to this, more official details are expected during the briefing set for Tuesday morning, which is today, but many of the key details have already appeared in press reports. Republican Senator Josh Hawley accused Google of keeping power through, quote, illegal means, end quote, and called the lawsuit, quote, the most important antitrust case in a generation, end quote. Reuters also note that the federal lawsuit marks a rare moment of comedy between the Trump administration and progressive Democrats like Senator Elizabeth Warren, who has called for, quote, swift, aggressive action, end quote. Senator Ted Cruz took to CNBC's Squawk Box earlier to trash Google and its big tech peers for abusing their market position and censoring conservative voices. So we'll hear a little bit from this one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
I mean, if you're really good at something, you can have a de facto monopoly, but you think there's some things that aren't quite ethical going on in terms of maintaining the monopoly at Google.
Well, what we see them doing, and one of the things that presses the edges of the law in terms of the typical categories, is their abuse of power is not strictly monetary. I mean, it is maximizing profits. They've got $120 billion sitting around in cash. I guess that's kind of the money between the seats and the sofa. But it's not just profit maximization at the expense of consumers, because they're also monetizing your data, your private data, and they're using, so Google owns YouTube, and they use that to censor free speech, to censor political conduct. This comes right on top of what we saw last week, where Twitter and Facebook both decided to censor the New York Post and to silence news reporting. The New York Post had two blockbuster stories of alleged corruption of Joe Biden, one concerning Ukraine, another concerning his being offered millions of dollars from communist China. And both Twitter and Facebook prevented users. You couldn't tweet a link to those articles. They shut it down. Not only that, they've still shut down right now today. The New York Post can't put on social media its own stories. That really crossed a threshold. It crossed a line we've never seen before. We have seen big tech trying to censor individual users. We've never seen them taking on one of the biggest and most respected media outlets around. The New York Post is over 200 years old and was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires are now saying they decide what the New York Post can report. They decide, presumably, what CNBC can report. That is a terrifying assertion of power, and it's an abuse of monopoly power to do.
So, Senator, you stole my thunder, because
All right, so there you're getting your sound off there, because Cruz and actually Hawley, they did sound off last week. So I'm not sure what those discussions look like. If I can provide you with a follow-up on it, I will do just that. Okay, and then just a little bit more on the premise here is the case against Google will be the first major DOJ antitrust lawsuit to take on big tech since the DOJ sued Microsoft in the late 1990s. A suit that began during the year that Google was founded in a garage in the Bay Area. According to the details of the suit leaked to the Wall Street Journal, details that have been previously outlined during leaks about the investigation when that was still ongoing. Google is being accused of maintaining its status as gatekeeper to the internet via an unlawful web of exclusionary and interlocking deals that effectively shut out competitors. These deals include all the money Google pays to phone manufacturers, carriers, makers of browsers like Apple Safari, to ensure that Google's search engine is preset as a default on millions of smartphones, even those produced by competitors like Apple. The DOJ is also taking issue with Google's Android operating system, which preloads Google's search application in a way that it can't be deleted. These revenue sharing agreements have allowed Google to ensure that no search competitor can challenge its dominance. Google handles about 80% of all internet searches executed in the US each year. During an interview with Senator Ted Cruz on CNBC, the senator pointed out that the lawsuit comes just a week after Twitter and Facebook worked to shut down a series of New York Post stories alleging shady and corrupt behavior by Hunter Biden and members with his family, revealing that the scope of their international influence selling was larger than candidate Joe Biden has led the public to believe. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to take you to our final soundbite related to all of this business with the email, the shutdown, and this is going to come from Mark Meadows. So we're going to have that clip coming right up for you. Shout out to everybody in the stream. This is a bit thick, a bit in this report here today. I really appreciate you guys for taking the time. And also, we're going to play that clip for you. Thank you so much.
And we'll continue to fight for him. And that's Donald J. Trump.
Did you suggest that the Trump campaign should sue Twitter over censorship because it suppressed the Hunter Biden story? Is that what you suggested?
Well, obviously, we see that election interference is really more what Twitter and Facebook seems to be about in the last few days than it is about making sure that it's a impartial platform that other people can post information on. So the Senate is right to go ahead and have some of these people come in and actually testify before the Senate and finally confess what we've all known is, listen, there's an inherent bias by these social media companies against some conservatives. I was one of 4 congressional conservatives that Twitter went after years ago. And yet what they're finding now is they're going to have a bipartisan backlash. And so whether it's the administration suing them, whether it's FEC complaints, or whether it's congressional action, I think that we'll all come together. I think a perfect place for that would be in December when we actually look at some additional funding measures. Let's go ahead and revoke 230 proposition there, where we don't give them the liability protection that so many of these companies have enjoyed. It's time that we let the trial attorneys go after them and put.
Okay, so that gives you a bit of a another perspective on what could happen with these tech moguls. And I don't know, if they remove the 230, then it's going to be certainly a game changer, and it's going to mean a lot. It's going to mean a lot to a lot of different things, I think, to the content creators and individual platforms on all levels. So we'll see what that pans out like. Just so much going on here. And which I shout out to you, Kid Wonder's Life of Wonder. But when they talk about things like voter suppression or election interference, they're projecting that on Trump's campaign, but then they're the ones that are suppressing the platforms. I mean, if the information, let people decide for themselves. But here again, we're dealing with this whole confluence of it's almost like we're dealing with a nationalized suppression, or a nationalized, where the First Amendment is absolutely toast in this case. I mean, this is ahistorical to this country and ahistorical to our culture. So it's happened in other places, but most people don't have any idea what the other side says. I don't know if they can't handle any bad news. They don't want any bad news. Head up, eyes down. I don't know what their mantra is, but many people have no idea what's out there already. And then when you add this to it, it's like they don't want anybody to know what's going on. We're going to be pretty soon, we'll be limited to, we'll know even less than we do know, because we won't have these platforms, and we won't have there won't be any other perspectives or framework out there. Any other ideas out there, the truth will be lost All you get what we tell you. Believe what we say, and not even what you see. You've seen that. You've seen that from the riots. When you've seen buildings burning down, they say, "Oh no, this is mostly peaceful. What are you talking about? We're having a great time here. Never mind that building behind me that's burning down. There's no problem here. This is peaceful." But you have people that totally suck it all up. They're absolutely, they're not, they're, I don't know what it's called. What did you, some people call it, I say willful blindness, or some people spiritually call it reprobate mind, cognitive dissonance. I mean, you could probably come up with some other, you could probably, treat the concept in many ways with other words. I mean, but everything's fine for people that are already not paying attention or yelling conspiracy theory. Oh, yeah, you do have to conspire in order for something to happen, in order to commit an actual crime. Yeah, I give you that. But theory, I just think that even that has lost. Where's the new speak on that? They keep that one in the cycle. They keep rinsing and repeating that. So once again, I really appreciate you guys for coming in. So just a little bit of a spot check in terms of the week. So I think Thursday, the debate will take place with the Kristen Welker. I have no idea what they're going to talk about. If it's not going to be foreign policy, I have no idea. But see, it's also going to make, I don't know how you can prepare for something if you can prepare for a debate that's totally being skewed or being framed for the advantage of someone else. I don't know. I don't know how do you objectively participate in something like that. I think with Trump's natural demeanor, I don't think that's going to go well. They're already saying all out war. Well, they know it's all out war because it's already the playing field is not anywhere near level. It's not. Changing rules at the 11th hour. I mean, maybe the second debate should have ended up being the final one rather than this one. I mean, see, this is the thing. Donald Trump gets a whole 2.5, 3-year impeachment, an attack on his campaign, but Biden can't withstand a debate on foreign policy. He's touted his record all the time when it comes to the Obama administration. So he can't even get through a debate. I mean, wouldn't that make people curious as to what's actually going on here? What is happening here? And the Trump campaign agreed to these rules, to these changes, to these 11th hour changes. I mean, if you're even doing debate prep, then that means you're less prepared because you're not. Eventually these things are going to come up. If they take it out of the program, is it not going to come up? But no, what they're going to do is they're going to use it as an attack, or they're going to weaponize it against Trump and say, oh, he was just attacking the whole time. And I mean, it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be a tough one to get through, but I will try to bring that to you I'll give you an update on that later if I can bring it to you. So I really appreciate you guys so much for coming in today. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next live stream in the comment section and on a video or a Moonlight stream. So thank you guys so much for coming in, and have a great rest of your Tuesday.